This news is funded by viewers like you. Please support our work at democracynow.org/give. We begin today's show in Burlington, Vermont, where 3 Palestinian college students were shot on Saturday as they were walking to dinner at the home of one of the students' grandmothers who lives near the University of Vermont. 2 of the men were wearing keffiyehs, and they were speaking Arabic at the time of the attack. The young men have been identified as Hisham Awartani, a Brown University student, Kinnan Abdalhamid of Haverford College, and Tahseen Ahmad, a student at Trinity College. They were all 20 years old. They're all 20 years old and graduates of the Ramallah Friends School in the occupied West Bank. 2 of the students remain hospitalized. Hisham Awartani, who was shot in the spine, has reportedly lost feeling in the lower part of his body and may never walk again. Authorities have charged a 48-year-old white man named Jason Eaton with 3 counts of second-degree attempted murder. He's being held without bail. He pleaded not guilty on Monday. He reportedly shot the students from his porch as they walked by. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said the FBI is investigating whether the shooting is a hate crime. The shooting comes just weeks after a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy was stabbed to death near Chicago by his landlord. Tamara Tamimi, the mother of one of the students, Kinnan Abdalhamid, told ABC News, quote, "To us, it's decades of dehumanizing policy and rhetoric from U.S. leaders towards Palestinians and Arabs, including from the Biden administration, which has caused our children to be in the situation that they're in," unquote. On Monday, relatives of the men shot in Vermont joined local authorities at a news conference at Burlington City Hall. This is Rich Price, the uncle of the Brown student, Hisham Awartani.
We speak only on behalf of the family because the family can't be here. I want to say that these 3 young men are incredible. And that's not just proud uncle speaking, but it's true. They have their lives in front of them. I moved here 15 years ago, and I never imagined that this sort of thing could happen. And my sister lives in the occupied West Bank, and people often ask me, "Aren't you worried about your sister? Aren't you worried about your nephews and your niece?" And the reality is, as difficult as their life is, they are surrounded by an incredible sense of community. And tragic irony is not even the right phrase, but to have them come stay with me for Thanksgiving and have something like this happen speaks to the level of civic vitriol, speaks to the level of hatred that exists in some corners of this country. It speaks to a sickness of gun violence that exists in this country.
That was Rich Price, the uncle of Hisham Awartani, one of the 3 college students of Palestinian descent who were shot Saturday in Burlington, Vermont. And this is Kinnan Abdalhamid's uncle, Radi Tamimi.
Kinnan grew up in the West Bank, and we always thought that that could be more of a risk in terms of his safety. And sending him here would be the right decision. And we feel somehow betrayed in that decision here, and we're just trying to come to terms with everything.
We're joined by 2 guests. In Burlington, Vermont, Wafic Faour is with us. He's a Palestinian refugee from Lebanon, has lived in Vermont for years. He's a member of Vermonters for Justice in Palestine. And in Bethesda, Maryland, Joyce Ajlouny is the former director of the Ramallah Friends School, the school where all 3 of the students shot in Vermont graduated from. She's now the General Secretary of the International Quaker Social Justice Organization, American Friends Service Committee. She herself is Palestinian-American. We welcome you both to Democracy Now! Wafic, you're in Burlington. Let's begin with you. Where were you on Saturday when you got the news that 3 young Palestinian students, all 20 years old, best friends, visiting one of their grandmothers for Thanksgiving, were shot?
I was at my house in Richmond. Thank you, Amy, for inviting us. I was at my house. We were organizing many activities and rallies because of what is happening on Palestine and this genocide war against our people over there. Definitely I was shocked, and our community here are terrified and angry. But Amy, we should talk about what brought this atmosphere of hate, and this is a hate crime, and we should call it as is. From the federal level, the actions of Biden administrations and Secretary of State Blinken and Defense Secretary that supporting Israel unconditionally and talking about the Palestinian victims and questioning the numbers of the Palestinian Health Ministry. This is on the federal level. And here in Vermont, for the last 2 years, we have living under siege too, from attacks from institutions here when we brought resolution to talk about Palestinian rights, human rights, and the protection of the Palestinian people. We found attacks from administrations in UVM, University of Vermont, on Middlebury, and unfortunately from many faith-based institutions. And they called us anti-Semitic. And this atmosphere will bring to the American public that if you talk about Palestinian rights, you're going to be called terrorist. If you wear a keffiyeh like this, you're going to be called terrorist. And this is what brought this crime, and it is hate crime. Unfortunately, our leaders here in Vermont didn't call it as is, and we should call it as is and use the right words.
And Wafic, specifically at the press conference that was held on Monday by law enforcement, what do you believe should have been said but was not?
Well, I mean, when State Attorney Sarah George mentioned it's a hateful event, but it is not hate crime. I mean, if it happened to another community, it would have been called hate crime immediately. And now there are a questioning of the mental capacity of the attacker. When it is, believe me, we feel here, if the name of the attacker is an Arab name or a Muslim name, he will be called terrorist immediately by the media, and the media will have a field of describing that person. Now, the attacker is a white supremacist, and because of the atmosphere and racism against the Muslims, the Arabs, and the Palestinians here on the state and all across the United States, we don't call it as is. At the same time, the mayor of Burlington, who opposed and he promised to reject and to veto any resolution in our progressive city that calls for Palestinian human rights and our rights as a Palestinian American citizen and our solidarity groups to use our First Amendment and to call for the right of BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanction. And that happened a year and a half ago. You cannot have a double standard that attack us because we are activists for the rights of the Palestinian. At the same time, when something like this, you just bring sorrow and mourning and defend yourself and where you stand. You have to stand with people justice regardless. And you have to be the mayor of all the citizens. And I call for the Burlington Council members to bring a stronger resolution and mainly for ceasefire now. You know, the Palestinians are dying, and we are working to stop this genocide over there. And we have our local leaders, they have responsibility to support our solidarity group and the people in Vermont and Burlington.
I wanted to ask you, the mother of one of the injured young men, Hisham Awartani, his mother, Elizabeth Price, has been trying to leave Ramallah and travel to the U.S. to see her son. Is there any news about whether she'll be able to come?
I don't know. I heard that she's coming. I saw a statement about that. I don't know if she's in her way already. I know a sister and her husband of another victim is here. I am in contact with the stepfather of another victim, and he told me his health is improving now, but we have to take this crime as example of what we feel and what we are experiencing here. We stand by those victims, but at the same time, I have to talk to you about the fear and the anger of our community here in Vermont, the Palestinian and the Arab Muslim community in particular, and our solidarity groups and young students who getting attacked by UVM administrations, and a year and a half ago from Middlebury administration too.
I want to get to that, but I want to bring Joyce Ajlouny into the conversation. Former director of the Ramallah Friends School, the school where all three boys went to school in Ramallah. She's now the General Secretary of American Friends Service Committee, joining us from Virginia. Can you talk about where they went to school? These were three best friends, now 20 years old.
Yes, Amy, thank you for having me. As you were speaking to Wafic, I received a message from Ali Awartani and Elizabeth Price. They're saying they're on their way to America. Just to answer your question about if they are planning to come, they are en route traveling to.
And I should correct that you're in Bethesda, Maryland. Sorry, I said Virginia.
I am. No worries. That's close enough. Yes, the Ramallah Friends School was established in 1869 by Quaker missionaries. It's a phenomenal place. I'm a graduate of the school myself. My grandmother, who's a Palestinian Quaker, graduated from there in the 1920s. So this is a proud place for many of us. And not that it's educationally and academically superior with an IB education, kindergarten through 12th grade, but it's also the Quaker values and the foundations of peace and nonviolence and teaching tolerance and service and integrity, conflict resolution, emphasizing dialogue and inquiry. That is what the school is about. And the track record is phenomenal when we look at our graduates and what they are up to. I think graduates say that they are who they are because of the Ramallah Friends School. So it is really a phenomenal place that has transformed the lives of many throughout generations. So, so I know that Hisham, Kinnan, and Tahseen are proud alums, and as you know, I think that they're getting together, as most of us are Palestinian Americans here. I also want to share that three of them are Palestinian Americans, and so sometimes that's dropped from the news that two of them are actually American citizens, and so they are gathered. They gather together to provide solace for each other and just vent sometimes, and it's therapy to come together. And unfortunately, they have witnessed this horrific crime in the midst of them coming together to comfort each other. And I think that is what has happened, unfortunately, this time.
You posted on Facebook their poems, Tahseen's poem as well as Hisham. I'm wondering if you could read them for us. How old were they? Like in 6th grade?
They were in 6th grade. I had the privilege of being the head of school when they were in middle school. And so so the librarian actually dug those up, and I will read Hisham's poem, 6th grade. Hisham, who now goes to Brown. By the way, brilliant students, all of them, accomplished, top-notch, value-driven. I wanted to say, maybe, Amy, before I read his poem, that's how selfless our students are. You know, Hisham wrote to his professor at Brown, and I want to quote him. He said, "It's important to recognize that this is part of the larger story. The serious crime did not happen in a vacuum. As much as I appreciate and love every single one of you here today, I am but one casualty in a much wider conflict." And then Hisham goes on to say to his professor that this is why when you say your wishes and light your candles today, you should your mind should not just be focused on me as an individual, but rather a proud member of a people being oppressed. And so these are his words since the shooting. When he was in 6th grade in 2015, he wrote, that's Hisham Awartani, "Hope dwells in my heart. It shines like a light in darkness. The light cannot be smothered. It cannot be drowned out by tears and the screams of the wounded. It only grows in strength. This light can outshine hate. This light can outshine injustice. It outshines segregation and apartheid. As of Greek legend, Pandora opened a box. And when she did that, all the evil escaped. But luckily, Pandora closed the jar before hope could escape. And as long as hope stayed in that jar, hope would never escape. So I ask you one thing: learn from the story, learn to never give up hope, learn to let hope give power in the darkness of times, and let the light shine."
Wow. Hisham in 6th grade. And how about Tahseen?
Tahseen, there are 2 poems. I want to read one, which depicts where our students are coming from, that they are coming from living under a brutal occupation, apartheid system that agonizes them, that traumatizes them day in and day out. Children, 6th graders. So Tahseen writes, "My ears are pounding. Children dying, mothers crying, authorities lying. My ears are pounding. My ears are pounding. Missiles destroying, bombs exploding, bullets killing. My ears are pounding. Press careless, dreams traceless, lands ownerless. My ears are pounding. Kids without mothers, beds without covers, Palestine without others. My ears are pounding. My ears are pounding. There is one sound I heard, not from a breeze or a bird, the sound of darkness. My ears are pounding. My ears are pounding. I'd rather be deaf." So, I mean, that says a lot. That says a lot about where we are at today and the story of the Palestinian struggle, which is often depicted as that this all started on October 7th. And so this is 2015. And when you read this poem, you feel like you're reading it about today, about our people in Gaza and what they are going through. And yet this was 8 years ago. So the struggle continues. Yeah.
And Joyce, I wanted to ask you, if you could comment on the tragic irony that the families of the victims have said in various interviews that they thought that the U.S. would be a safer place for their children than the West Bank, and then to have this terrible tragedy occur here.
Yes, of course. I mean, I think that is the absolute truth. We all, I know that a large number of Palestinian students from the Ramallah Friends School attend U.S. colleges, and they're actually very sought after. And when they come here, the parents know that they are keeping them away from being subjected to violence from not just the Israeli military, but the Israeli settlers. I have a 31-year-old son there now, and I worry about his safety. The settlers have been emboldened, and there's violence there every day. And you wonder, you send them here, and then this keffiyeh has now become a symbol, instead of our struggle, instead of a symbol of our tradition, our traditional dress, and our struggle. And this is now being painted and tainted as a symbol of violence. And so I have another son in Washington, D.C. He doesn't leave home without his keffiyeh. I worry about him too. So that is where we're at right now. And I can't but agree with Wafic about the dehumanization that has been taking place. And this is not new. Palestinians are, even in our grief, we are depicted as Palestinians dying, right? While Israelis are being killed and massacred. So language really matters. And I think that is what we have seen time and time again. The 47 children died on the West Bank between January and August of this year, way before this war started. And I wonder, who cried for them? Who mourned them? Where was the U.S. mainstream media talking about them? And so so it's not just the language; it's also the framing, right? That this is the worst attack since the Holocaust, painting Palestinians as Jew haters, as that this is a religious struggle rather than a people seeking freedom, seeking liberation from a settler colonial system, and remembering, that Palestinians of all faiths are in the same struggle as well, and they have not been offered the humanity and the dignity that they deserve. And so I think this is manifest due to the continued dehumanization, not only by the media but by our government. As Wafic said, that they continue to turn a blind eye. They're not calling for a ceasefire. They continue to embolden the Israeli atrocities by sending more aid, doubling their aid, and supporting the genocide of our people. And so that is truly the reason why this is happening. I just wanted to also take the opportunity. We're doing there's this exchange of hostages, and when they talk about that, they talk about Israelis released the children. The Israeli released our children, while the Palestinians who are released are teenagers. So children versus teenagers. In my book, they're all hostages. The fact that the media is not talking about the 3,000 Palestinians who have been kidnapped basically since the October 10th and put in Israeli jails, and they're calling them, they're not prisoners. To them, they are bargaining chips, right? That they will use in the exchange. But to us, they are hostages, just like the hostages that are held in Gaza. And so that is the narrative that is being talked about day in and day out. And people who have sentiments that are anti-Arab, anti-Muslim are emboldened by all of that and take action, like Jason Eaton, who felt emboldened because no one is portraying Palestinians as human beings that deserve the dignity and the respect that everyone else should be that everyone else is granted.
Jason Eaton, of course, is the alleged shooter of the three Palestinian young men. I want to thank you, Joyce Ajlouny, the former director of the Ramallah Friends School, where they all went to school in the occupied West Bank. All three students shot in Burlington, Vermont on Friday. Joyce is also now the General Secretary of the American Friends Service Committee. And I want to thank Wafic Faour, a Palestinian refugee from Lebanon, member of Vermonters for Justice in Palestine, speaking to us from Burlington. And this final note is speaking about the Vermont representatives. You have Becca Balint, who is the first Jewish Congress member to call for a ceasefire. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders has not called for a ceasefire, but has called for conditions on U.S. aid to Israel. He said, quote, while Israel has the right to go after Hamas, Netanyahu's right-wing extremist government does not have the right to wage almost total warfare against the Palestinian people. Democracy Now! Is funded by viewers like you. Please give today at democracynow.org/give.